we know that most women outlive men. That's just that's just the fact.
Yeah.
And so if I take on that relationship, the chances are that woman's going to be my client longer than that man will be.
Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
This is Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, your certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. I'm Ron Stutz, just having a conversation with Mark today because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life. That's Mark's slogan. 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Get in touch, leave your name and your number, and Mark will get back with you. Let's talk about some financial challenges specifically for women. And Mark, I know that we have a lot of women listening to this, and this may be directed at them. What level of engagement do you find that most women these days have with the retirement planning process in their household?
Unfortunately, if they're married, a lot of times the husband is, and I hate to generalize, but I am, is in charge of things, and they leave the wife out completely unless the wife shows an interest, which a lot of them don't because the husband handles it. I can tell you in our firm, we require both parties to be at each meeting. And so we won't take on an engagement. If somebody's married and they don't want to bring their spouse or the spouse doesn't want to come, we won't continue on that relationship. And it's really a disservice because I know there are other advisors that will take on those type of clients. But the way that we view it is this: one, I have a fiduciary duty to do what's in both of their best interests. And if I'm only meeting with one, I don't know what the other one's thinking, because even though they're married, they might have different goals, visions, etc.
Sure.
And so it's important, Ron, like I said, that both parties are at that meeting. And what it also does is if I take on those clients, we know that most women outlive men. That's just the fact.
Yeah.
And so if I take on that relationship, the chances are that woman's going to be my client longer than that man will be. And so I really need to take that into consideration. And if you look at my client base, I have more widowed women than I do men. And I think that's just the way it is because of, life expectancy and whatnot. We know that for a fact.
I know that that's a really wise policy to have because it's so important that two people in the relationship know what's going on rather than just one. And we're speaking in generalities here. It's not always the case. Sometimes women handle the money and the male
Right.
in the relationship doesn't know anything about it. So
Right. And, usually, and it doesn't mean they both have to be equal. A lot of times the man will take the lead, but, the wife should still have input in what's going on. It should still feel comfortable enough to ask a question with the advisor, because it's amazing to me how many people have come to me from other advisors where I had one situation where the wife looked at me and said, my past advisor never even looked at me when he spoke to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it baffles me that people still have that mentality. Both should be included. When we do risk tolerances, we take risks from both of them. We're not just taking one risk tolerance. We're analyzing both. And when we fill out worksheets and goals and those sorts of things, they're done separately as well, because we want to understand both people's values and goals, which could be different. Even though they may be married for a very long time, their goals and how they view money might be different, and we need to understand that.
And sometimes they don't even talk about those things before they come in to see you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why is it that so many, I think I know the answer to this question already, but why is it that so many retired women are increasingly finding themselves in difficult financial situations?
I think it's because, and I hate to put the blame on the husband, but a lot of times the husband, whether it's the husband or the financial advisor, which is even worse, didn't make it mandatory that the wife attend the meetings and get involved in the process. Whether, whatever the reason is, it's really doing a disservice to the other spouse that's not included. Again, that's why we make it a requirement. We've sent people home, and believe me, we are very clear in our paperwork, in our emails, our letters, that both spouses need to attend. And if they both can't make it, we need to reschedule. And we've done that. In fact, we've had people that say, my spouse will never come. And unfortunately, we're not willing to take on that relationship.
Yeah, I think that's actually, as I said before, this is a good policy. It really is. What are some of the specific challenges faced by widowed women?
I think it kind of relates to the last question you asked. Some of the challenges are understanding that, maybe they weren't included in some of those conversations. They don't even know what investments are at. They don't have a good relationship with their current advisor that their husband was working with. Understanding that there's probably going to be some big changes, certainly with income, because if they were getting 2 Social Securities, now they probably only have one. Again, maybe there was a pension. Maybe that pension continues on. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe if that pension does continue on, it's not the same amount that the spouse was getting. Maybe it's reduced by 50 or 75%. Who knows? So understanding, what their expenses are, what needs to be paid every month, who gets paid each month, how they get paid, understanding all those sorts of things so they can come up with a plan so they feel comfortable that they can continue their life now, but, on their own versus doing it, when maybe the spouse took care of it. Now this is something that they need help with, which we're happy to help, but they've got to get a grasp of, what bills need to be paid, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, of course, we're talking about all of this, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that women just live longer than men, and we're not being sexist here. We're recognizing the fact that perhaps there are a lot of husbands out there who may have a sexist attitude, and so women, don't get mad at us. We're not being sexist. We're just recognizing what things are like and how things work out. If you could speak specifically, Mark, to the husbands who are listening to this conversation, what are some of the things you would encourage them to do to be sure that they don't leave a financial mess behind, but their wives to have to clean up?
Get your wives involved, bring them to the meetings, whether they don't want to go or not, force them to go. Shame on your advisor if they're not requiring your spouse to be at these meetings. But it's up to you, because it's not going to be their mess. It's going to be your wife's mess. So you need to make sure that she's included in these sorts of conversations. If you come to us, we'll make sure that happens because, like I said before, we won't take on those relationships. But if you are working with someone that doesn't require it, make sure that you're encouraging your wife to come and make sure that she feels comfortable asking those questions, any questions that's possible. There's no dumb questions. And if she doesn't feel comfortable, then you need to maybe seek a different advisor that she does feel comfortable with, because in the end, if you predecease her, which unfortunately statistics show that's probably what's going to happen, she needs to know what she's going to do. And if you don't have children that are close by that can help or willing to help, that's going to be a problem. And so, get them involved, let them understand, spend time with them, make them feel comfortable asking questions, show them where your assets are, how it's invested, so they can, feel like they're a part of it, so that when the time does come, that's one less thing they have to worry about.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, and Mark has been doing this financial planning. He's a certified financial planner professional. I know, Mark, you've been doing this for a very long time, and you've experienced a lot of different scenarios out there. If you would, take a moment to share a story about a widowed or divorced woman who came to you for help, and you were able to make a really big difference in her life.
Sure. It's happened several times. I'm trying to think which is, they've all had some of the same things, but different. It's a tough situation, but when a client doesn't feel comfortable talking to the advisor because they never were involved, it can cause a lot of problems. But we have situations where clients hire us where maybe the husband's managing the assets, doing it themselves just fine, but they realize that maybe, one, they're not doing the best job possible, and two, that they realize that more importantly, that their situation is not going to, when it does change or when they do pass away, that the wife is going to need help. And obviously we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know when someone's going to pass away or not. So it's making sure that you have all your ducks in a row. And I think one of those ducks need to be making sure you have an advisor that both spouses feel comfortable talking to and understand what's going on. But to give you a story, I have a situation right now that I'm dealing with where this is actually the reverse. They hired me because he was handling the investments, and, she was never involved. And we, of course, made her come in, and she was involved and felt very, very comfortable with us and asked questions. And unfortunately, she passed away last year. So we're in the process of helping him deal with it. And, he's having a hard time getting along by himself with everything that's been going on. And we're there helping him getting his investments in order again, as well as trying to figure out what to do. His estate plan needs to be updated, et cetera, tax person, all these different things that we try to help with. And so, going through that process and being there for someone when they're, at a total loss. I mean, they've lost their spouse, their life is no longer the same. And it's one less thing that they have to worry about. That's what we're there for.
That is a wonderful service for sure. Mark, I know that a lot of people are going to make a phone call to the number I'm going to give out here in just a moment. And what it is the True Wealth process, which all begins with your phone call to Mark Silverman's office. And it all starts after you make that phone call with a 15 to 20-minute introductory phone call. And Mark, what kind of things do you talk about specifically with the women out there who may place that call?
Sure. And whether you're a widow or not a widow, whatever the situation may be, happy to help. We try to help everybody that we can. Doesn't mean we're the right fit for everybody, but we don't know until we have a conversation. So this is an opportunity to have a conversation with me where you'll be able to ask me any questions that you have. I'll ask you some questions so you can learn more about your situation and what it is you're looking for. And then we can determine if we're going to be a good fit moving forward. If so, we'll have you come into the office and have what we call a get acquainted meeting to determine more. And I'll give you everything that you need to know to make an informed decision if you want to move forward with us in our True Wealth financial planning process. So this is that opportunity. There's no cost. There's no obligation. Just reach out.
You've been listening to the Saving with Silverman podcast. If you have any questions at all about your financial situation, please give Mark Silverman a call. Again, his number is 520-333-7601. Or go online to savingwithsilverman.com. For Mark Silverman, I'm Ron Stutz. We'll see you next time on the Saving with Silverman podcast.
The Saving with Silverman podcast is brought to you by Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, based in Tucson, Arizona. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show on your favorite app today and never miss an episode. Just search for Saving with Silverman to find us, or visit savingwithsilverman.com to listen to past episodes, to contact Mark, and to learn more about how to make smarter decisions with your money. All matters discussed on this show are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed are solely those of Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, and staff. All topics covered are believed to be from reliable sources. However, Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC makes no representation as to its accuracy or completeness. This show shall in no way be construed as a solicitation to sell securities or investment advisory services to residents of any state other than Arizona or where otherwise permitted. Topics should be discussed with your individual advisor prior to implementation. Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Arizona. Insurance products and services are offered through Silverman & Associates, an affiliated company.